Hello and welcome to the first Radical VideoCast. I'm Ryan McKenna, and I'm here to talk to you about radical ideas, radical thought, radical perspectives, radical change that I'm already seeing in the world, and radically new ways that we can work with one another and that we can see one another, that we can alter our perspectives so that we can adjust our behaviors, adjust our society accordingly so that we can minimize the dysfunction that we see. What I mean by all that is that it's just ideas that create the world that we live in. If we have radical ideas, we will produce radical change. It's the natural result of it. And radical change is already happening. We can see it in the world we live in. We can see it all around us. We can see it in the way that the internet is evolving and the way that we, the viewers, have become the participants. We become the content creators. We become the podcasters, the videocasters, the bloggers, the pundits, the photographers, the videographers. We are stimulating that radical change. We're going with the flow of it. It's taking us all on this huge roller coaster ride. And whether you feel it or not, it's happening all around us right now. Worldwide, there's billions of people right now who are all exchanging ideas, who are all collaborating or competing, debating and discussing all around the world, every second of every day now. And that's the sort of thing that stimulates ideas and creativity and problem solving, solutions. Sort of thing that weeds out the truth from the illusions is exchanging ideas, exchanging perspectives, and whittling down the extraneous stuff that we're given on a daily basis. Fact-checking and just debunking of a great deal of what we have in terms of information flow. And we're doing it. We're doing it very, very quickly, and we're going to do it even faster and faster and faster as things go on. So it'll come to a point where the illusions will simply collapse because the information will leave us no other option. But the interim is going to be transitional, like it is right now, with great upheavals in terms of public activity and activism, and in terms of changeovers in our political systems, in terms of great amounts of fear that are always a product of great change. So what we want to do, ideally, if we are activists and we want to make the world a better place, we want to increase equality, we want to increase love and connection and community, then we need to stop segregating ourselves with ideas, because that's what we do. And we don't do it intentionally. We do it because it's the way we've been taught to be. We have teams, we have clubs, we have families, and we have geographic areas that we ascribe loyalty or, fealty to. We give ourselves identities based on these things, based on what we believe, what country we're from. These are all artificial divisions, and I talked about that actually years ago. There's still a video left from some of those rants on this YouTube account. But the artificial divisions, the artificial separations, they're what keep us back. You see, it's always been divide and conquer. That has been the way that we've been kept at each other's throats in order to profit the very rich for a very, very long time. It's not a new tactic. And it's what's behind nationalism. It's what's behind religion, especially orthodox or dogmatic and fundamentalist religion. It's what's behind what's behind almost all instances of violence is the notion of oneself and the other, the separation inherent there, that there is another, that there is an enemy, that there's something out there that is not you. or not part of you, that it doesn't affect you, or that you're able to detach. We use that phrase, don't get attached. If you're a farmer, to your animals, well, you are attached. You're attached in many, many biological, physical ways to everything around you, through frequencies and through biology and through water, through everything, air. The separation doesn't exist. Where we really, really start to work against ourselves is when you have a group of people who are out to do good, but because they're out to do good and they know it, they see themselves as separate from all those who are perhaps either apathetic or contrary to their cause. And in doing so, we create the other. We create that separation. So perhaps, if I want to use vegans as an example, the other is the carnivores, and the other is anyone who's still, using animals as something to consume in various ways, or something to use. So in that, they create, the vegans and the carnivores. And there's, in a great deal of these instances, once you've created that division, there's a natural conflict that comes out of that. And it's the same way with activists and police. You see, we need the police. If we're going to create a new world, one based on common sense and, logic and evidence and compassion and love and connection, well, it needs to start with the actual formation of that world and with the presentation of alternatives to the current world. So if you're there trying to create a new world, but you're still using the tools of the old world, which is, fuck the police and they're the enemy and so on and so forth, you're just going to create a new version of the old world with the same problems inherent, the same separation, which is at the core of the whole problem. If you're one of the types who wants to round up the rich and execute them French Revolution style, well, if you're using violence to achieve your end is going to be violent. How you do it is instilled into the end result. Whatever goes into the process is going to shape what comes out at the end. Just like creating a work of art, whatever colors you put in is going to represent the end result. You can't imagine putting a color in and having it not affect it. So if that color is violence, it's going to run through the whole thing. And it's going to change the tone of it. So what you create will be more of the same. It'll be more separation and more violence. Well, we've got rid of the enemy. I guess we're okay now. Until there's a new enemy. Until there's someone else with a different idea. Or until there's someone else who wants to control you. And then you have a new enemy. And then you have violence again. Pardon me. So you can see where I'm going with this. It's everyone. We have to look at everyone as part of us. Part of the whole, part of who we need to be on board with the change. Because as you can imagine, if the police are kept segregated from the whole and kept separated, their pain will grow. As I spoke about when I talked about how there's no such thing as hate. There's only pain. And the need to either express that pain, or if it's not listened to, then to share that pain by inflicting it. To not be alone, to be connected, you see? Because if they're feeling pain, pain is a lonely experience. It's an experience that you go through alone. So people lash out to share that pain if they feel it's not being acknowledged. So our separation only furthers the pain. It only creates more pain in the world. And that's nature. Nature is using the pain to tell us, stop doing that. See that you're connected. Stop being silly and stop imagining all of these other horrible realities when the truth is so much better. And all you have to do is look. You just have to see photosynthesis occurring. You have to see that the rainforest is the lungs of the planet. So if the rainforest is the lungs of the planet, and the rainforest is taking in what we're putting out, then it's all one organism. It's all one thing. Maybe it's not Gaia theory exactly, but it is overall an integrated system, an interconnected system. So connection is who we are. We need to accept that. We need to accept that we are all connected, and therefore pain here is going to be felt over here. It's all going to be transferred around until it's shared with everyone. So what we need to do is we need to minimize the separation in the world. We need to minimize the pain in the world. But we do that just simply by sharing ideas and continuing what we're doing, but by letting go of the blame, letting go of the hatred, letting go of the judgment. Because we can see that there are problems, and we can see that there are dysfunctions, and that there are ways that we're not doing things sensibly. And we can attempt to fix those. We can intervene because we're compelled to, because it will make things better. We can do all that without hating each other. We can do all that without feeling separate from one another. We can disagree with each other without feeling separate from one another. We can intervene with force to stop someone from being violent to another person without hating that person, without trying to further punish them. Because the separation is the punishment. It is. Whether that person is acknowledging it or not, any sense of separation from the whole, any sense of loneliness or isolation is damaging to humans. It's not what we're built for. Not what any mammal is built for. If you look at how we all interact, we're all built to connect, to be together. And now we have a global community. And of course, the ideas and the various illusions of separation that have been given to us by our various hierarchical pyramid-shaped institutions are going to start to conflict and start to clash, but we can dissolve them all with just the truth. We are connected. These are just ideas that we came up with, and, they don't stand up to scrutiny. The notion of blame doesn't stand up to scrutiny when you recognize that we're all interconnected processes. So what happens over here affects over here. So who do you blame? You don't blame, you identify the problems. You identify the dysfunctions within the system, and you address it. You educate the people who are part of that system. And you educate the people who are affected by that system. And you get people power. You get the idea spreading that this is dysfunctional, this isn't working. And then change happens. As soon as people recognize that what they're doing is counterproductive, it's a waste of time and energy, and it's ultimately even worse because it's inflicting damage back on them, then they will wake up. But we need to counteract the message that's coming out. We have to counteract the message coming out from religion, especially fundamentalist religion, saying that any one people is inherently better or worse than another. That any one people is inherently evil or good because of what they believe. We need to recognize that we're all connected, and that connection is what we ultimately all want. It's not getting that connection, either as a child or throughout your life, that reinforces that pain and makes people lash out more to share their pain. So we have to stop saying things like fuck the police. We have to stop saying things like kill the rich, or burn your Bastille, talking about armed revolution, because that's not going to bring change. That's just more of the same separation, the same violence, the same hate, the same judgment, same blame, the same revenge punishment to try to solve the problem. It didn't work before. It's not going to work now. The threat of pain or suffering, the threat of it, does not come close to the immediate gratification that people get from whatever their vice is. And if that vice is greed, if that vice is power, then it's not the threat of something that might happen in the future if they're not careful that's going to dissuade them from doing it. It's showing them something better, showing something more enticing, something that is more fulfilling and that reaches out to a part of them that they didn't know existed. And it exists in all of us, I'm telling you. Doesn't matter. I don't care if you're talking about the most cold-blooded psychopath. That person is still connected to the whole. And that psychopathy is a result of the illusion of separation, writ large, to the point where that person feels no attachment or has convinced themselves they feel no attachment. But if you notice, the desire to manipulate and to inflict pain within psychopathy and sadism and etc. must come from an inner pain. It's why we do that. It's why we inflict pain. It's to share the pain we feel. I have a theory that police officers resent the public most because the public puts them in positions where they may need to harm a member of the public, either through drunkenness or recklessness or aggression or so on and so forth. They'll feel threatened because they feel separated once again from this person, like this person is a potential adversary, whether you are or not, whether you are threatening or not. You will still appear to be a potential adversary because so many other people have. And I think there is a resentment that comes out because that makes them further have to separate themselves from the whole. The more we start talking to people, regardless of who they are, with compassion. That means everybody, okay? I'm just going to make it very, very clear. Everybody. It's not any one individual or any group of individuals. It doesn't matter if you know this stuff or you don't know this stuff. It doesn't matter if you're enlightened or an indigo child or if you're the average sort of person on the street who gets all their information from mainstream media and isn't really interested in politics or spirituality or so on. It doesn't matter. You're all connected, which means everyone is influencing the whole to the same degree, not greater and not lesser. We're all part of the integration of systems. And even if one person feels like they have that power, let's say that you are one of the 62 people who own over half the wealth and power on the planet. Let's say you're one of those people. Well, you feel like you're in charge, you're in command. But you can't possibly be, right? You can't possibly be everywhere controlling everything, which means you're actually dependent on an entire network of people, an entire structure that is controlling you, not the other way around. You have to respond to that structure. And that structure may have to respond to you, but you're only doing it because the structure has forced you to make a decision or to adjust things or so on and so forth. Moreover, you also depend on a whole network of people to keep your personal life and your personal affairs taken care of. So you are actually more dependent on structure than the average person who doesn't have that much to deal with. Most a house and a car, but assets in the billions or trillions of dollars must take a small nation of people to manage. So those people are not in any more or less control than we are. They're at the mercy of the structure of the system. And we'll always be at the mercy of nature. But nature's trying to teach us something. In the same way that nature tries to teach us that if we try to go without eating, our stomachs will hurt. If we try to go without peeing or pooping, it will hurt. If we try to do things the wrong way, if we try to resist what is and how things are, it's going to come back as pain. So the point therein that I'm going to wrap it up on is love everybody. Does that sound cliche? Does that sound silly? Does that sound hippy-dippy? I'm not saying like everybody. I'm not saying agree with everybody. I'm not even saying don't get into arguments with people, because arguments are good and debates are good. I'm not saying you have to be best friends with people. I'm not saying you have to invite them over to your house and feed them. I'm saying love them in the sense that see them as an extension of yourself. See them as the embodiment of the phrase, "but for the grace of God go I." Whether they're a police officer, whether they are a member of the rich, or say a tobacco lobbyist, or a gun lobbyist, or, a mercenary, or a pedophile, anyone, everybody, the worst of the worst and the best of the best, we're all part of the same whole. So just because you see someone causing harm or being part of a system that causes harm, don't hate them. Don't think that you hate them. Don't think that you're capable of hating them, because you're not. Don't identify them as the enemy. Identify the problems with the system and with the interplay of systems. And then share what you see. Share your solution or your ideas or your observations with the world, so we can all work on it together, because that's what we're doing. We're all working on these problems together now. And our politicians become less and less relevant. It's more about how they're responding to what we're saying, because now we have voices. So we can eliminate this separation, but we just have to go about it the right way. Because like I say, if the methods aren't correct, if the methods aren't with the same intention as the end, then the end will be counterproductive. I'm going to leave this video cast here. I think I made my point. Stop saying fuck the police. Stop talking about armed revolution. It's fine to, have a contingency plan to defend yourself if, God forbid, tyranny occurs, because, let's face it, it's happened virtually everywhere in the world. But we need to get rid of the hate, and violence can't be the goal. Violence has to be the last resort. We have to be willing to defend ourselves from those who would harm us. And we have to be willing to correct those behaviors. But we should not be willing to hate them. We should not be willing to separate ourselves from them, because it's a lie, it's an illusion, it doesn't make sense. Alright? Keep having radical ideas. If you see any radical ideas floating around on the internet that you think I should address or talk about, or you want to hear my perspective on, or if you think it absolutely contradicts everything I've said, bring them to me, and I'd be happy to showcase them or what have you. If you see any interesting people who have some radical ideas and you think they'd be a good guest on the show, then by all means let me know and I'll see what I can work in. I want your comments, feedback, discussion around these topics. I want to hear what you think. Hear what your suggestions are. That's what it's all about. So, ending the first video cast, Radically Yours, I'm Ryan McKenna. Have a good day.